welcome everyone. This is the weekly outlook for the upcoming week, and we're going to be discussing again fundamentals and then also going through the technical analysis of GJ and gold.
What's going on, guys? Hope everyone's doing well. Great weekend. Let's break down the charts and some fundamentals. It's glad to be back on with you guys. How
So
are you?
there's not much happening from a macro fundamental side just yet, but what we do have is a lot of UK news, and that's very interesting if you're trading any GBP pairs, because last week when we did the weekly outlook, there was some optimism that was being pushed out that yes, they're extending the lockdowns until July 19th, but if they saw some favorable data coming out, then they would have lifted some of the restrictions on July 5th. But now we're starting to see that that's not happening. Another optimism that we were seeing was the UK was opening up international travel to a lot of different countries. But again, the other countries now they're saying like the US, Hong Kong, Europe, and we're going to start going into some of those articles here too. And a lot of other countries, they're saying like they're not letting planes from the UK land into their country. So they're prohibiting any travel to and from the UK, but the UK is saying like, well, you guys are open to go travel if you want, and we're accepting visitors from other countries. So the UK is trying to push out optimism, whereas the rest of the world still sees the UK as high risk. So
Nice
that's
little
what you
tug of
want to
war.
pay. What was that?
Nice little tug of war.
Yeah, and so that's what you want to pay attention to as an investor, kind of look through those lines and understand what's happening here.
Yep.
So the first one that we're going to go through is the England is still very likely to be freed from the pandemic restrictions on July 19th. That's what Boris Johnson said. And he predicted that the country was 3 weeks away from returning to life before COVID. So on July 19th, they're pushing out this optimism that they're going to start lifting up all social distancing rules. They're going to open up all entertainment, hospitality, businesses, nightclubs, theaters, all of that. So you no longer have to socially distance. And also in some places, I guess, or maybe overall in England, you don't have to wear a mask, right? So they're lifting up all these restrictions that they had in place for like 3 lockdowns now already. So a lot of businesses, they're pretty optimistic. They're going along with whatever Boris Johnson is saying. They're saying like, okay, we're going to trust you. But there are also other businesses who are saying that we don't kind of trust what the government is saying right now when it starts pushing out that optimism, like, all right, let's open up the economy, because they've already done that so many times before, but they keep extending it.
Yeah, we were just talking about that too, and just put yourself in the shoes of a business owner. I mean, we trade forex, so
Great.
we're looking. If you've been trading GJ for the past, let's say 2-3 years, or actually, I don't know, 5 or 6, you know how Brexit's been, and how they keep delaying everything, and everything gets pushed back. They say one thing's going to happen, then the next thing they extend it. Imagine being a business owner in that standpoint,
Yeah.
where especially with COVID going on, they just say one thing and then they push it on to later. So you can't trust what they're going to say.
Yeah.
Kind
And
of
so
leaves
it's
you in
pretty
limbo.
much how do you prepare for that as a business owner as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? So obviously a lot of these businesses, they're incurring losses at the moment. So now they have to think about how do you make those losses back, right? And that's where you're seeing like increased prices coming, because that's
Mm-hmm.
one of the ways that you're going to make money back as a business. Going further down into the article is just that they're starting to push out this optimism, but also there's a lot of countries who are just announcing new restrictions on British travelers. You have Spain, Hong Kong, and US, you have the EU, all of these places. So now when I read this as an investor, it's a little uncertain for me, because for 3 lockdowns, you've had restrictions, complete lockdowns happening, businesses shut down, social distancing, only a certain amount of people being allowed to meet indoors. And now all of a sudden in 3 weeks, they're pushing out this optimism or this sentiment that, yeah, we're going to open up the entire economy. You don't need to socially distance, this or that, right? Even though there's not enough data being put out there that with the new Delta variant that the cases are dropping. And so that as an investor, that kind of brings in that uncertainty for me that as we get closer to the date, are they just going to keep pushing it back? Or, like, are they just going to keep putting other restrictions? Or are they really going to open up the entire thing? And it's more like a guinea pig test, like to see if the vaccines are working pretty much, because then if it is, then you're obviously going to see cases increasing, right? There's a lot of people who haven't gotten the vaccine yet, and still the cases are still increasing related to Delta variant.
Yeah, the World Health Organization, I think it was this week, that just came out saying that even if you have the vaccine, you got to wear triple masks. No,
So
you gotta wear, like, even if you have the vaccine, because of the Delta variant. So they're going backwards a little bit now.
Yeah, so that's what you're seeing, like just across the board, like all these different countries, like putting different restrictions and all this stuff onto their people and onto their economy. But that's what I'm looking at from like an investor perspective. Again, think about it like a business. Think about it like a company instead of a country, if that's kind of hard for you to grasp.
Hmm.
But same exact thing what Stefano said, like how are you going to deal with this if you were running a business in that country where there's just so much uncertainty being put around? The government's pushing out one thing, and then as you get closer to the date, then that's when you see like the entire switch up happening, like, oh yeah, we're not ready for it.
Definitely helps when you're trading either the forex market or securities that, when you put yourself in the mindset of a business owner, let's say you're trading securities, you're wondering like, do I want to invest into this business? Or if you're an investor, do I want to invest? Who's the CEO?
Right.
Looking at all these different things. If you're trading the forex market, you're looking into the country. Like, is this a country I want to actually invest in? Is
Yeah.
this a country that's going to give me a return on my money when it comes to investing into that currency and when it comes to the strength of it?
Yeah, and instead of the CEO of a company, now the CEO is the president or the prime minister, and what are their stances on certain points,
Hmm.
right? So looking at that, there's a huge difference. Just look at the U.S. There's a huge difference between the Biden administration and the Trump administration. Completely different agendas,
Hmm.
completely different ways of looking at the U.S. economy, the dollar, the stock market, all of that, right? So that's what if you're in the stock market and you're doing your due diligence looking at the CEO, management, balance sheets and all of that, pretty much you're just looking when you're trading in the foreign exchange market, pretty much you're just looking at all the same exact data but on a macro level. Now
Hmm.
instead of a company, it's a country. Now instead of a CEO, it's the president, prime minister. Now instead of the balance sheets, you're looking at unemployment claims coming out or PMI news or CPI news and things like that. And then this is just another supporting fundamental coming out that Hong Kong is banning passenger flights from UK starting Thursday. So they're saying that the UK is extremely high risk because it's loosening entry requirements for people traveling from most of other parts of the world. So starting on July 1st on Thursday, all passenger flights from the UK will be prohibited from landing in Hong Kong. And that's what you're seeing in a lot of different countries as well. So the US, they didn't specifically say that they're prohibiting any flights landing in the US, but they're saying that they're not letting people travel to or from the UK, or that they're highly suggesting that they don't. So they're really already putting out market sentiment that the US still views the UK as a high risk country. But yeah, since December to May, the UK has been on Hong Kong's extremely high risk category.
Yeah.
And then stricter restrictions coming in and all of that. And then also Europe doing the same exact thing. So we already know that I'm just going to use the same phrase that you did earlier, which is the tug of war going on between the Europe and the UK, anyways, when it comes to Brexit, when it comes to allow post Brexit, anything related to post Brexit, letting the UK have access to EU single market. And it's none of that is working out between the US or the UK and the EU. None of that is working out at all. And now some countries in Europe are imposing new restrictions on UK visitors because of the Delta variant. And Germany pushed for more coordinated European Union response to try to limit the strain taking hold in the EU itself.
Yeah, we saw this coming a mile away when it comes to
Yeah,
anything going on with Great Britain and the Euro
yeah,
or um,
EU, yeah,
any EU. Yeah,
yeah,
anything is going to, no matter what subject it is, no matter what they're talking about, there's always going to be an issue.
yeah.
They're always going to be pushing back on it.
At this point, it is, and also the EU, it just doesn't want to work with the UK in easing up anything that they talked about in the Brexit deal. So they're basically saying that whatever we talked about in the Brexit deal, that's pretty much what we're moving forward with,
Hmm.
right? We don't want to renegotiate any other terms, and it makes sense. I mean, if you've been
Yeah.
negotiating with a country, or if you and I were negotiating for 5 years, what you really want to come back and be like, okay, let's renegotiate this? No, right? Like we
It
spent 5 years on this.
it keeps like, all right, this is our slate.
Yeah.
This is what we agreed upon, and we're not going to budge from that. It makes sense.
And so that's the sentiment that a lot of the officials are pushing out. One specific statement that's being put out here is that closures were probably unavoidable in the first wave of the pandemic. But something like that shouldn't be repeating itself over and over again, like being your third lockdown. You should probably understand what's going on. But that's what we have from a macro fundamental perspective so far. So we're starting to see that other countries are starting to pick up their vaccinations. Some countries are trying to open up. but you still have some countries that are lagging. And then in the case of the UK, you have optimism that's being put out by the government, but also when you look at the ground level of businesses or consumers, everyone's not so optimistic. And then looking at the economic calendar here, so we're just going to go through it real quickly. So you have the NPC members speaking from the UK today. And then after that, you had a lot of FOMC members speaking. And then continuing down, you have the unemployment rate. If you're trading any yen pairs, you want to take a look at the unemployment rate and retail sales. That's going to come out around Asian Open. And then as you continue down, you're probably going to see a little bit of died down volatility or volume in Tuesday's London session as there's an Italian bank holiday. But before that, as soon as the market opens up, you have the German prelim CPI, the Spanish CPI. And then as you continue down, you have a lot of GBP news coming out towards the middle of the London session. So you want to pay attention to, out of all of these, you want to pay more attention to mortgage approvals and net lending to individuals. And then after that, going into the New York session, you have the consumer confidence coming out of the US, and you also have the ECB president speaking. So if you're trading any euro pairs, this is what you want to pay attention to. What is she saying? So if you just click on latest release, it'll just take you to their website and you should be able to view her speech or the video or anything like that live as it's happening. And then as we continue down, then in pre-London session, you have a ton of GBP news coming out, which I think as soon as the market opens up, obviously you want to give it 15 minutes or so to kind of price in all this stuff. So I would pay attention to the final GDP because this is what Bank of England is going to be paying attention to as well. You want to take a look at what's the business investment, what's that environment like at the moment. So as the interest rates are low, usually business investments they start to increase a little bit because it becomes a lot cheaper for people to borrow money. So you want to pay attention to how that's going. If it remains around the same, then pretty much shows you that there's uncertainty around the fact that a lot of businesses they're not sure if they should be taking out any loans or anything like that. And given what we talked about in our last weekly outlook was variable interest rates. That's what we're talking about, fixed versus variable interest rates. So if you take out loans based on variable interest rates and the Bank of England decides to increase the interest rates, then and you can't afford it, then you're pretty much just screwed,
Yep.
for the lack of a better word, right? And then going into Wednesday, you have CPI news coming out. So this is what you want to pay attention to if you're trading any euro pairs. So as you can see, you have a ton of euro news coming out. But the more important thing that I would pay attention to would be the US non-farm employment change. Since it is NFP week, this is definitely what you want to pay attention to when it comes to US and preparing for any NFP news. So you have non-farm employment change. And then as you continue further down, you're going to have unemployment claims coming out on Thursday. So you have unemployment claims, and then you also have challenger job cuts. So you have like 3 different fundamentals that are there to prepare you this entire week for NFP.
I think we're going to get negative numbers. I know they're predicting positive, but
yeah,
I mean, you live in the U.S. too, so we were in Macy's the other day. Place is a mess. It looks like a bomb went off because no one's working there. Like people just throwing clothes all over the place. No one's working. I talked to the cashier. I'm like, "What's going on?" She's like, "Nobody wants to work. Like it's just terrible."
Yeah.
She's the only one on the floor, and you see it with different businesses, little businesses struggling a little bit because they can't hire people because they increase the minimum wage, or it's just. I think we're gonna continue to see numbers over 400,000 when it comes to unemployment.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the best ways is just look at unemployment claims because that's what NFP is based off of.
Yep.
You have unemployment coming out every single week of the month. And then you look at NFP and it tells you usually on the first day after the month ends, right? This is the change in the number of people employed during the previous month. And then this is the number of individuals who filed for unemployment insurance for the first time in the past week. So if these numbers are already increasing, these are people who are filing for unemployment insurance for the first time. So you'll see like this sort of correlation. I wouldn't say like 100%, but like I would say like maybe like 90%, right? Very high correlation between these two numbers. So that's what you want to be paying attention to. And that's how you prepare for NFP. But yeah, so as you can see, you have PMI news also coming out on Thursday. Thursday is more of the fundamental heavy days when it comes to Euro, GBP, US. So with Euro, you have ECB president speaking. Then you have the German final manufacturing PMI. Then you have Governor Bailey speaking twice. It's the same day. You have OPEC meetings if you're trading USD CAD oil. So if I were to watch out for 2 days this week, it would definitely be Thursday and Friday.
I think we'll get some volume on Wednesday as well.
All right, let's hop onto the technical side then.
Let's start with GJ over here. And these are going to be pretty simple technical breakdowns, based on what we've done in the past, and not much has changed.
Hmm.
So obviously, looking at the weekly over here, actually, well, we could start with the monthly. So the monthly over here, obviously, we respected a very strong resistance at 156, right? Very
Right.
strong resistance over here. And again, we look at this area over here after the previous recovery, economic recovery after the 2008 market crash, recovering in 2013, right around 156, we made that strong push up, created the high. We created a bearish monthly candle with a wick possibly to fill over here, and then we just got that massive move all the way up to 174. So now we're sort of in that range, but we are holding 156 as a significant zone. I'm looking, if we get, more positives coming out of Great Britain, and if they hold and keep their promise when it comes to July 19th, we could see something similar with, this candle closing the way it is the 28th, so the month's almost over. If we get a close just like this, we have that strong bullish candle. We never passed the low of that candle. Could we, continue to pass the high of these two candles right here and continue right back up at least to 164 right up here to
Hmm.
fill these wicks. So looking at the weekly over here, perfect setup, right? Where we had this corrective phase. Remember 152 a couple weeks ago, or actually a couple months ago now. It's kind of crazy. 152 was a significant level. We had massive bullish movement all the way up to 152, and then we kind of struggled, right? We rejected 152, 153, ended up holding below 152 over here as well, and then we finally pushed above to retest these highs and continue right back up to 156. Now we have something very similar to this movement over here. We have this corrective phase all the way back down to 152 to retest 152. So looking at these candles now, a little technical analysis, you're looking at this strong bearish candle, but barely any bottom wick over here. So price continued bearish through 152, and then we ended up snapping right back, flipping bullish and creating a very strong candle over here on the weekly with a top wick to fill, possibly up here, and close like a strong candle as well. So this current weekly candle we opened up yesterday ended up creating this top wick, and now we're flipping bearish. So are we reacting to this area right over here where these wicks rejected to then continue right back down to retest these lows?
Yeah.
Possibly. Anything you
No,
want to point out on the weekly?
yeah, that we're sitting at a crucial level right now. And also it's just a lot of things that you've mentioned, just if you were to go like very quickly into like a quick detail, the same exact thing, like you want to map out some of these levels and where exactly did this wick rejection happen, right into that consolidation area. So this is the area that we were talking about last week in our breakdown, that this is where we're expecting price to come and at least tap, reject or something here and then continue back up. And that's exactly what happened. But I'm looking at the minor details of the wick rejections. I'm looking at where are the candles closing. And this is the important area for me. For any buy opportunities, I need candles closing above there. Yeah, we came up and we tested the structure, but that's exactly all we did, is test the structure and then continue right back down. So for
Mm-hmm.
continuing any, the level that I have marked off is 153,600. So if we can continue below that lower time frames, we can see some break and retest happening. Then I think we're set to continue down to revisit some of those 152 area lows.
Oh yeah. Yep. And again, if you guys look right to the price, you got 154 as a psychological level as well. But also looking at the monthly, you have that area that we've been pointing out as well. As you guys can see, that bearish market structure over here, tapping into that area. We said months ago, right? We said months ago that once price got up to 155, 156, obviously this being the main confluence over here,
Mm-hmm.
156, retesting these highs up here, we're going to get some kind of reaction or rejection from this level, and then also this bearish trend as
Yeah.
well. So are we going to get that continued bearish trend all the way down into this level down here? If July 19th doesn't hold and they keep extending it, you could see something like that.
Yeah.
Um, so looking at, actually, I think the daily. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the daily yet. So again, we spent about 2 weeks, I would say, in this consolidation until they started hinting at increasing interest rates, which
Mhm,
pushed us out of that consolidation over here and finally up to 156, those yearly highs. So then we entered this consolidation. We actually both said it, but I think you said it first where, once we reached 156, you said we were going to consolidate a little bit in this area above this resistance. So I just want to mark off 154, 500 as a significant level over here. Almost got it.
mhm,
A significant level. We had that support, previous resistance over here. We wanted to retest 155, but also this consolidation area before heading down. So now you see some strong bearish candles over here, top wicks, bottom wicks as well, besides this candle over here. But we already formed a top wick on this current daily candle, and now we're flipping bearish. So it might be a good idea to sell right now for some kind of an intraday sell. You got a clean move to the left, but you just got to see what we're looking at on the lower time frames. And
mhm,
also, this is a very significant level, 153, 500 on
mhm.
the higher time frames as well. Anything else you want to point out before we
No,
go?
I mean, I have the same level. It's just mine's a 600, but that's about it. And I'm
Okay.
just looking again, just at the details of that candle that you, or the level that you marked off here earlier. This candle here. So yeah, we had a top wick rejection. We came back up, just tapped into consolidation, but we closed that day. We closed with a massive bottom wick rejection. Still continuing down, breaking the lows. And after that, now we're sitting at another crucial level. So once this is broken, I don't think anything's stopping it from coming back down to 152.
Yep, exactly. Looking at the 4 hour now, the 4 hour, you have the support that we finally broke. I had this marked off, and you can obviously mark your zones off like that.
Mm-hmm.
This morning when we came to the charts, this bearish move didn't happen yet. So what you had, what was this, last week? Yeah, last week, right over here, you had this bullish market structure, price respecting this, right? Creating higher lows, higher highs, and then finally came right up into this consolidation and then consolidated over here, holding support and also resistance. So we finally broke that support over here with this candle, at least on the 4 hour. You got smaller candles on the lower time frames, but then we ended up creating that bearish market structure over here, creating lower highs and lower lows. Then we came up here to grab liquidity, and then London closed with a massive bearish move down here. So it looked like we were grabbing liquidity just to head right back down. So we were looking at a safe sell over here. We didn't want to trade in this. We were waiting for price to break above this resistance, but it kept rejecting that resistance for a possible buy to continue right back up to retest these highs after breaking the bearish market structure with that bullish candle right there. But we ended up rejecting that multiple times. So, that's an indicator that we're not going to take a trade. There's nothing worth trading in this zone over here. But then we broke support now. And now we're continuing right back down to this possible level, which we had marked off. And you have about 30 something pips in here from what I remember this morning. Oh, actually about 45 pips, right down to this support over here that you could possibly take something on the lower time frames, which we'll look at right now. This is kind of good that
Also,
we're doing this on a Monday because we got moving price action and
yeah.
we could kind of call things out live. For
Also, pay attention to like if you were to extend these zones over to the left, then also pay attention to exactly what is price doing in these areas. If you look to the left, you have consolidation to the same exact area. If you just continue over to about into May, yeah, all that. See how that's the same exact level of consolidation?
Mhm.
And the zone that you had just marked off, where you're saying like, okay, price can continue down there. If
Right
you
here,
extend that over to, yeah, you got that massive bottom, no, a little bit lower,
right
right?
here.
A little bit lower. You see that massive bottom wick rejection
Yep.
right there. See, that's the zone that you just marked off that we could continue down there. So you want to pay attention to these levels and see what's happening to the left.
Yep.
The price is consolidating into the same exact zone that it consolidated to the left. And that's where the next target is, where you have that massive bottom wick rejection before price continue right back up.
Absolutely. Now, what you want to also keep in mind, like right now, we don't have much volume. It's 12:41 Eastern Standard Time right now, and the reason I have this area marked off as well, besides this previous support, resistance support, and then the support of this, where we had that wick rejection, like Sharma just pointed out. You have these multiple rejections over here on the 1 hour, right? Right over here as well. So being that we don't have much volume coming in, we could very well blow through that. Like it
Hmm.
looks like we could be right now, but we also could get a massive rejection because we don't have much volume to push us down. But we do have that clean move to the left to at least push us down into this area. And I fully believe that we're going to hit 153, 200, maybe by the end of the day. But again, you need that volume to take scalps. Maybe you can find something on the 1 hour or the 4 hour to take an intraday, but got to make sure you have a safe stop loss. Maybe above this candle right over here and take this thing down. Gold over here. Gold, not much of a breakdown, not much of a difference from the last time we broke this down for you. So again, we came right back up to retest these previous highs, previous support over here, rejection area before we finally broke below. Now 1910 served as a nice resistance to continue all the way back down. Again, that market sentiment from not last Wednesday, but the Wednesday before when interest rates came out, they kept them the same. But they also hinted at probably increasing interest rates twice or what, 3 times by 2023?
2 times by 2023, and now they're just saying that there's only probably going to be one.
Yeah. Yeah. So right now we're just consolidating. I know the market's kind of closed confused towards the end of the week last week.
Hmm.
So right now we are consolidating in here. We get that massive bearish move, but also to a significant level at 1762, 63 over here, serving as a support and a key level once again after serving as a support over here. Previous rejection area to the left, rejection, and then that resistance over here to the left as well. So right now, we are consolidating on the lower time frames, looking at the daily over here. Let's just mark off a few key levels when it comes to the recent price action. So you do have 1800,
Hmm.
which you can always mark off right now.
You're also sitting at a very key level, so when you're looking at it from weekly time frame or daily time frame, that's something that you want to pay attention to. That
Mm-hmm.
very easily, because we broke out of that bearish trend for short term, very easily this entire push up, like this move that we have, could simply be a correction of this as we're holding on to the support and then continue pushing back up bullish. That could very well happen. The only time you have sells is if we break below this zone and then continue.
Yep. One thing I did point out to my guys, actually, before I get to that, also look at the weekly trend that we're in. Could we be coming down, right? Retested this support or the support of this bullish trend over here. Could we be coming right back down into this area? Maybe even continue to consolidate over here until NFP to retest this area, and then you continue right back up with
Right,
some negative numbers coming out of the U.S. Right?
right.
They got to be massively bad for this to continue right back up to retest these highs, but
Mhm.
we just got to wait for price to break out. But what I was explaining to my group this morning is that some ranges are worth playing, right? If you have a big enough zone, a massive zone, obviously on gold, you're going to have some pretty big zones that you could play, or pretty big ranges that you could play in.
Mhm.
It sometimes are worth playing. And if you look at the 4 hour, right, or actually looking at the 1 hour. So again, we had this massive move down all the way back down to 1760, right? So we made that move. Now pretend that this never happened. Give me 1 second. Pretend that never happened. So now we're creating this low. This is a big enough range for you to play in. This is that's almost 400 pips right now that you could play in. But the longer that consolidation becomes a consolidation, the less you want to play in it. So nobody should be really playing this right now. Is this like worth trading in? You're gonna blow your account. You're gonna blow like all your possibilities to make profit once price does break out of this range, right? You do have this support right here, and this is what I was pointing out, where you have this support, and then anything inside of here you don't want to play with. Do you want to take risky sells once we break the support? You do have a clean move right back down to 1760. You have a possible move right here, riskier sells, but the safer sells are going to be below 1760 to continue down and mirror some of these moves over here to the left. You got a nice clean move right down to this area, and you got a move right back down to here. and then eventually right here, some clean candles to the left over here, right? That you
Hmm.
can mirror. But again, you do have a possibility to take something in here to, for that to turn into an intraday to continue right back down. But again, you may want to wait for price to just break out of this, especially if you're a beginner trader. Just don't trade in this and wait for price to break it. Don't make those, beginner mistakes or risky mistakes that a lot of people do make. And a lot of people end up blowing accounts in here. I know many people that have. So you want to wait for price to break out of here. You got a clean move right here, right? And the longer it consolidates like this, the bigger the move once it does break out. So
Yeah.
just be patient. It's only Monday. So you don't have to be trying to catch moves in here and be a cowboy. You don't need to do that.
Yeah, another thing is like when things start to consolidate, I see a lot of traders kind of getting more like fidgety, like getting a lot more nervous. You should be more excited when you see
Exactly.
consolidation because the market's collecting orders. And once you kind of understand, like, okay, what type of news are you expecting? And from a technical side, you see things lining up, right? Price starting to push. Maybe it's like coming back into like that between 1790 and 1800 range, that zone that you have marked off there. When it starts coming down there, then yeah, you kind of know that okay, price is going to continue that way, and then you start preparing like, how do you take that trade? If there's an impulse opportunity, then how are you going to take that impulse opportunity? How are you going to manage your risk? How are you going to manage your trade? How are you going to like take partials, whatever it is? How are you going to do that? That's when you start preparing. So whenever market's in consolidation, you have all that time to simply prepare for that one move. So then when it does happen, you don't have to kick yourself and be like, oh man, I just missed out. Like, how do I take this? Right? That happens so much to a lot of traders where they see a move happening and they're like, I don't know how I could have taken that. Like, I want to be part of that move. But you have all this time to prepare for it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Look at all the different time frames. Look at what confluence do you need, right? What steps do you need? Like, what steps are you going to follow? All of that. And then how are you going to take that trade?
You brought up a good point when it comes to like a mind shift. And I think this is a better conversation for our other series.
Yeah.
But one thing that you want to do, especially if you're a beginner trader, is get used to shifting your mind to more of a pro trader or an institutional trader with the way
Mhm.
that they think. And a lot of beginner traders, again, like you said, they see this and they get bummed out. They're like, damn, I can't take a trade today or anything. But you want to shift your mind to being excited for this, knowing that eventually, maybe midweek or towards the end of the week, you're going to get a massive move. Price is just collecting orders here to either continue bearish or bullish in
Yeah.
reverse, right? So get excited for that. Just like you kind of get excited where I wouldn't say excited to manage risk, but like if you're in a losing trade, a trade that you know that you should have been taking, it is your setup, but you
Mhm.
have that opportunity to practice your risk management and close trades a little bit earlier and then just catch the next trade. Like get excited for that in a way. Obviously, you're not really going to get excited for a loss, but you are getting excited to practice that skill and to master that skill even better. Because that's, I would say, besides risk, besides discipline, risk management is the number one skill that you can have in trading. Because if you can't manage risk, you're not going to be profitable.
Absolutely. And we speak about this from experience. Like, I personally, I know that Stephanos has his Trello. I go between Trello and TradingView. So even if like you go onto TradingView, just check it out. There's a trade that I took back in April, which was like 190 pips, and it was just by preparing by looking at that consolidation,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
You
that's kind of your motivation. You don't every time there's consolidation, you have a big enough range, but then also exactly what Stefano said, you have to determine is it worth trading in that big enough range,
Mhm.
right? This entire thing's like 400 pips, but majority of that is just consolidation. Do you want to be part of that? So you don't have to take a trade every single time. Look for quality over quantity.
Exactly. And with that, that is gold for you.
If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment or also just message either of us. So Stephanos would be TikTok or even on YouTube, just commenting. For myself, Instagram or even on YouTube, whichever one. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of the weekly outlook. And I hope you guys trade safe and make sure that you're preparing in advance. So then you're not, just getting bummed out that you missed out on a trade or anything like that. So Stephanos is putting down his TikTok so you can message him on there.
Yeah, just in case you guys want to reach out for any kind of questions or you want to hop on a Zoom or anything like that. My main source of social media right now is TikTok, but I have full confidence that we're going to get the Instagram back, and I can't wait for that. So